Hi, I'm Adam Summer. You're listening to the Yerushalmi Talk podcast with the support of the Yeshivat Devar Yerushalayim in Har Nof, Jerusalem. This is Sheviis, chapter 4, Halacha 5. Short Mishnah, short Gemara. Mishnah starts off, says, if one clips grapevines or cuts down reeds, Rabbi Yossi HaGalili says he should distance a cut a tefach, and Rabbi Akiva says he may cut in the normal way with an axe, a sickle, or a saw, or with whatever he wishes. This is a little bit complicated. So what Rabbi Yossi HaGalili is worried about is a couple of things. Why are they cutting the grapevine? What's magic with the grapevine? Well, we know in chapter 7 in Masechet Shabbos, it's talking about pruning. It's the first, in chapter 2, the first sugya is talking about pruning grapevines. And over there, it's talking about it because it stimulates the grapevines to grow back thicker and stronger. Now, we know that if you're doing malacha during Sheviis, that's going to cause the plant to grow back stronger and thicker and better, then that is going to be forbidden. Now, what is the difference between clipping and pruning? Now, this Mishnah says if one clips grapevines, okay? Now, pruning, that is biblically forbidden. And the question would be, would clipping be rabbinically forbidden? Or why is it that clipping would even be permitted rabbinically here? Okay? And some of the commentators here, because there is a difference, right? Pruning is a malacha. Okay, it's gonna come back better. Clipping is a little bit different activity, okay? And it's a non-standard form of pruning. Clipping is going to be where it's going to be done for the sake of the grapevine, but it's not being done to improve it. It's taking off some dead leaves or some dead branches. So it's not the same as pruning live branches. Now, there's still a little bit more difference. Marafulda is going to help explain it. He's saying that biblically forbidden pruning is only such where it's going to promote both the growth and the productivity of the plant. So pruning the grapevine is going to get this to grow better. It's going to promote the grapes and the quality of the grapes, and that's why it's going to be biblically forbidden. Clipping, says Amara Fulda, is only going to thicken the trunk of the tree, but it's not going to directly enhance the grape production. And he's saying that that's why it is permitted. So that's a surprising way to look at it. Now, why does Rabbi Yossi HaGalili say now you can cut a tefach? And the idea here, says Amara Fulda, is that if you cut reeds close to the ground, it's going to look like you're preparing the ground for plowing. And by distancing the cut a tefach, it doesn't look like you're going to be plowing. And Mara Fulda explains that regarding clipping branches of a grapevine that are lying directly on the ground, casual observers are going to suspect him of trying to hoe the ground. And so the idea is that one should lift the branches at least a tefach off the ground and then clip them. And then we're going to look at the other idea here, which is that about the tool. Rabbi Akiva is saying he could do it with whatever you wish. You could do it with whatever tool you want. And so, according to Rabbi Akiva, you don't even need to alter the type of instrument that you're using to do this kind of labor. Now, normally you would say, oh, well, if you're going to go do this labor because it looks so close to pruning, maybe you need to be using a different kind of tool in order to do it. And the point of Rabbi Akiva is saying, well, you can use the normal tools, and not only that, you can use whatever tool you want. So Rabbi Akiva is not coming along and saying, yeah, you got to use, you can do it, but you got to use a back of the hand way to do it. What's surprising about this Mishnah and what's surprising about Rabbi Akiva's ruling is he's saying, no, you can do this activity in a normal way. Now, let's get into the Gemara. It talks about if you cut down reeds and things like that. And Rabbi Yossi Galili is saying that he should distance that cut a tefach. And Rabbi Akiva is saying that he can cut it in a normal way. And he can do it with an axe, a sickle, a saw, or whatever he wants. And the Gemara now is going to quote a brisa. And the Gemara says, we learn in a brisa, one who cuts down reeds. Rabbi Yudah says, in a place where it is customary to cut down reeds with a tool, he should manually pluck them out by the roots. And in a place where it is customary to pluck reeds manually, he should cut them with a tool. And he should raise his axe, a tefach, and cut. So this is getting back to what we're worried about is, hey, is there a back of the hand way here? Or is there not a back of the hand here? The back of the hand way to do this. So if he's going to cut this with a tool, what this is saying is that Rabbi Yudah is holding like Rabbi Yosef HaGalili in this Mishnah, and they're basically saying that he should cut a tefach higher than he normally would cut. Now, what's interesting about this is that according to Rabbi Yudah on cutting down the reeds, you do see that it should not be done in the customary way in the Sheviis. So in other words, if you're going to be in a place where customarily you're going to do it with a tool, you should pluck it. And if you're going to be in a place where customarily it's to pluck it, you should do it with a tool. So the Gemara is going to continue. It's going to say, if in Sheviis one cuts beams for wood, he should not first cut level and then at an angle, or first cut at an angle and then level. Rather, he should take care that he cuts it level. Now, why is this? Marafulda says about this that when someone cuts down a tree with an axe, he alternates between swinging the axe level and swinging it at an angle. And this allows the wood chips to fly off. And the Bryce is telling us that if he cuts down a tree during Sheviis, he may not use this method because it is apparently beneficial for the tree and has to be cut level. So the Bryce is going to give a different opinion. And it's going to say that we learn further in this Brisa that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, in a place where it is customary only to cut level, he cuts at an angle. And in a place where it is customary to cut at an angle, he cuts level. And unlike the Tanakama, who requires that the tree always be cut level, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel allows it to be cut in any way that differs from the norm. Now, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is going to return to cutting of the reeds, and the Gemara says that one may raise the reeds at ground level, provided that one does not cut it with an axe. So the Marafulda says about this that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel disagrees with all three of the opinions regarding the reeds. And he is more lenient than Rabbi Yosef HaGalili in the Mishnah and Rabbi Yudah of the Brisa, and he allows cutting the reeds down to the ground, but he is more strict than Rabbi Akiva, who does not allow cutting with an axe. So, according to this Brisa regarding cutting the beams, which is going to be referred to as cutting down trees, the part, says the Marafulda, about raising it to the ground is referred to as cutting down reeds. And this appears to be where the normal way to cut it is going to alternate between swinging it level and swinging it at an angle. And it would look like, says the Marafulda, that this method does not seem to be necessary for cutting down reeds. And Marafulda is saying that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel's statement, where one may raise it to the ground provided he does not cut it with an axe, is going to dispute this Mishnah regarding reeds. So the Gemara is going to continue, and it's going to say that the Mishnah stated Rabbi Yosef HaGalili says he should distance the cut at tefach, And Rabbi Akiva says he may cut it in a normal way with an axe or a sickle or a saw or with whatever he wants. And the Gemara now is going to try to get into this dispute between Rabbi Yossi Galili and Rabbi Akiva in this Mishnah. And this, by the way, is going to come up with a different dispute. So Rabbi Yossi Haglili, who requires that a distance of that cut be at least a tefach off the ground, okay? And he's holding like Bet Shammai. And Rabbi Akiva, who permits raising grapevines and reeds to the ground, is holding like Bet Hillel. So in Halacha 4, we were talking about this dispute between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel on uprooting olive trees. And over there, Bet Shammai prohibits uprooting the olive trees, which, by the way, the Rambam is saying that this is being done because you need the firewood, because it looks like you're preparing the ground for plowing. And Bet Hillel is not worried that you're going to suspect it, but the problem with Bet Hillel comes when you're going to uproot 3 olive trees there, and that's basically going to correspond to a Bet Seim, and it's basically like you've cleared a field and prepared it. So this Gemara here is saying that Rabbi Yossi Galili and Rabbi Akiva in this Mishnah have a similar disagreement. And Rabbi Yossi says this Gemara is basically holding like Bet Shammai, and he's worried that people are going to be suspected of preparing the ground for plowing. That is, in fact, the exact worry of Bet Shammai. It's stated over there in chapter 4, Halacha 4. And in cutting down the trees, Bet Shammai is going to require that you cut it at least a distance of a tefach off the ground, so it's clear that you did not prepare this ground for plowing. Now, this Gemara is saying that Rabbi Akiva is ruling with the same logic here. Again, this Mishnah here is going to parallel that dispute in chapter 4, Halacha 4. Rabbi Akiva is holding like Bet Hillel, and he's not worried that somebody's going to suspect them of preparing the ground for plowing. And that is why he's allowing for normal cutting. That's going to be the deep idea here. Now, the Gemara wants to get into the juicy question about what's going on with this analysis. And it's going to answer it, and then it just moves on to Halacha 6. So the Gemara goes like this. It says, is then our Mishnah coming to teach that Rabbi Yossi HaGalili holds the opinion of Bet Shammai, and Rabbi Akiva holds the opinion of Bet Hillel? So, I mean, it does certainly look like that. But I want to point out that it is impossible that the Tana of this Mishnah would cite the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Galili if it was just a repetition of the opinion of Bet Shammai. And the other problem is that Rabbi Yossi Galili, in the time frame, can't hold the opinion of Bet Shammai because Rabbi Yossi Galili came much later, between the disagreements and disputes between Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. So it's interesting because Bet Shammai does permit raising it to the ground, and Bet Shammai is going to, Rabbi Yossi Galili is going to require a distance of a tefach above the ground. So there's a little bit difference, it looks like, when you start to scratch it and look at it. So the Gemara is going to retract the statement that Rabbi Yossi Galili holds the opinion of Bet Shammai. And here's how it says. It says, rather, Rabbi Yossi Galili actually holds the opinion of Bet Hillel, but he holds that regarding cutting down grapevines and reeds, there is more reason to fear that someone will be suspected of working the land, and Rabbi Akiva does not fear that one will be suspected of working the land. So let's look at an explanation by the Yom Tov from Pirush here, and he's going to say that Rabbi Yossi Galili agrees with Bet Hillel that one may uproot 1 or 2 olive trees from the ground, and he's still not suspected of preparing the ground for plowing. And that's because olive roots are thick and are going to hinder plowing. And regarding cutting down grapevines and reeds, there is more reason to suspect that one is preparing the ground for plowing because the roots are thin and they're not going to get in the way of a plow. So basically, Rabbi Yossi Galili's is going to also be requiring a distance of a cut where that is going to be a tefach above the ground, and that's going to be because it would get in the way of a plow. Now, according to the Rambam, Rabbi Yossi Galili is requiring a distance of a cut of a tefach because he is afraid that one is really trying to improve the tree by pruning it. And according to the Rambam, Bet Hillel and Rabbi Yossi Galili are discussing 2 different kinds of suspicions here. Okay, Rabbi Hillel is saying that one may not uproot 1 or 2 olive trees, and he doesn't have to fear that he'll be suspected of preparing the ground for plowing. And Rabbi Yossi HaGalili is saying that one must distance the cut a tefach from the ground for a grapevine or reed because it will look like he is suspected of pruning. So the idea is, I guess in grapevines, is that they will cut it down and then it will grow back really good, apparently on these earlier vines before, they really want to get them going. I mean, look, if you can't use the fruit for orla anyway, right? You got 3 years that you can't use it, and you have this nice trick where if you cut back to a stump on an olive vine, and it's going to regrow better, and the quality of the grapes are going to grow better, and the trunk is going to grow back stronger, why wouldn't you do it? Because after your 4th year, you're gonna have better quality grapes. So there's a real world reason why you'd be concerned about cutting down the olive tree. But over here, it's, as Rambam is saying, there's 2 different suspicions. And on Bet Hillel's suspicion, it's worried that you're going to be preparing the ground for plowing. And over here, Rabbi Yossi HaGalili's worry is that you're really pruning. You're not clipping, and you're really not really doing anything other than saying like, oh, well, I can't use the fruit anyway, and I'm going to get this magical effect where I'm going to get better fruit in the future, and I'm going to get a better quality vine that's going to be healthier and stronger and produce more fruit and better quality fruit. So I may as well, cut back the whole thing and let it regrow, and I'm going to get a better quality plant. And so basically, it's 2 different suspicions. One's talking about preparing the ground for plowing, and one is talking about cutting back this plant so that he can do pruning. So that will cover it. We'll get into Halacha 6.